Hello and a very, very warm welcome. My name is Liesel Teversham and I work with highly sensitive people very often to feel safer in their valued relationships. So today I'm talking to a very dear friend about her beautiful book called Courage to Be You that will particularly help, especially highly sensitive introverts, to be more of themselves and let go of behaviors like people pleasing. So Marlene and I met many years ago. Marlene, I think it was around 2015 or 2016, something like that. We met on an
It was.
online forum where we both EFT practitioners, and we've stayed in touch since then. Never met personally. We've both crossed oceans. I am living in the UK now, where Marlene used to live. She's living in Spain and Europe. And so we just have stayed in touch and become wonderful friends. Let me share with you a little bit about her professional life. She's a therapist, a coach, a self help author of many books by now, with over 30 years' experience helping people to build confidence and create more empowered relationships. She also runs a thriving online practice globally with clients all over the world, alongside her personal development programs and the books that she's written. She loves walking on the boardwalks close to the beaches where she lives in Costa del Sol in Spain, where she finds peace and inspiration. Marlene, welcome. I'm so excited about this.
Yes, thank you, Liesl. It's great to be here with you. Really looking forward to our conversation.
Yes. So, I'd like to talk about how this book came about, first of all. So, what inspired you to write Courage to Be You? I'm wondering if there was a personal moment or a personal experience or something that led you to focus on this topic of people pleasing.
Um, People pleasing is something I've been working with clients for quite some time now. It's something. It's a focus that's evolved in my work. Many counselors and therapists start out helping people with various different things, and then as the years go by, we find our groove, as it were. We find the thing that lights us up, that helps people the most, that the clients who are drawn to us and that we work best with. And I think for me, confidence in relationships has been the thing for me, self-esteem and relationships. I work with couples and I work with individual clients. So it's all about relationships for me. And it's all about people having empowered relationships, being able to be fully themselves in their relationships, whether that's with a partner, their friends, their colleagues, their family members. But actually, I often say sometimes it seems like we're all, grown-ups going around. We're all children going around in grown-up bodies, scared trying to sort of please each other. And actually, if we could all be happy adults coexisting, how great the world would be if we had that
Wow.
confidence. So my mission really is to help us get there. And I truly believe, as I say, I've got the book here, a copy of the book here.
Ah, beautiful.
Um, I truly believe that from my years of experience that we learn to people please in childhood. And I kind of say in the book, it's phase one. It's phase one. It's what the first learning stuff we do. And that's part of life, as children. But then we don't need to stay in that. We can find courage to start living our own true life as ourselves, because people pleasing doesn't work in grown up life. Works great as a kid, but it doesn't work so well in our adult life. And so I truly believe that we're here to one big part of life is to evolve into this next phase,
Yeah.
to find that, to have courage to be you in your life, to get the absolute most out of your life, to be fulfilled, to be successful, all the great things we can have, the great relationships and the best life, when we start to have courage to be our own true selves rather than living our life according to what everybody else wants for us.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. And it makes me think about, well, when you said about it's phase one, when we learn to be people pleasers because it really served us at that point. And then you said something about how great would it be if we can be the adults that we are now, not have the little children in us.
Yes.
So that's the next question I want to ask is you talk about something called TA or transactional analysis a lot in your book. You base a lot of the book on that concept. So first of all, could you say just a little bit for those who don't know what that is? And then how has that influenced your approach to your therapy and personal development? And why is it a powerful tool for understanding
Yeah,
ourselves?
absolutely. I love TA, and there's a lot of TA. Halfway through the book, I introduce TA, and then continue to use that model and those concepts to explain things as the book goes on. A huge amount of inner child. TA, or transactional analysis, was first developed by a psychiatrist way back in the 60s called Eric Berne. And it's still used today across the world for with therapists and coaches and in organizations. There's, you know, it's used for motivational teaching, and it's such a great model. And TA basically says that we have different parts of ourselves. So we have a parental part of ourselves, and that has two sides to it. It has a critical side and it has a nurturing side. And then we have an adult part of ourselves, which is just adult. And then we have a child part of ourselves, which again has two parts. One is free and one is what we call adapted. And the adapted child's part of ourselves is the part that learns to adapt. Once upon a time when we were little, we adapted in order to make sure we were safe and secure and that we were loved and we'd be looked after and we'd be okay. So that's the bit of us that learns to people please. If I don't argue, if I don't say no, if I always say yes, if I give up my time, if I'm a good little boy or a good little girl, and all those things that we learn to do. So the wonderful thing about TA is that clients always love it, whether it's working with couples or individual clients. When we learn TA, it's such a simple model to think about these 5 parts of ourselves that we're always moving in and out of. Because then we start to, it's so simple. That's the thing. And the clients love TA because it's so simple. And as soon as you describe it, people say, oh, yes, I do that. I get critical parents sometimes. I'm bossy, or I'm nurturing sometimes, or, and I love to be free child. None of us are enough free child, but, it's such a simple model to understand. And yet it's such a powerful, powerful model. TA often is seen as a way of understanding how we communicate with each other. So if we're coming from one part of ourselves, we might invite the other part, the other person into, to respond. So if we're coming from an adapted child, the other person might get a bit cross and be a bit critical parent. And so there's a sort of an interaction. That's why it's called transactional analysis. But actually, there's another side to TA. And when we think about the fact that the most important relationship we have is the relationship with ourselves, that's where it starts. And I focus a lot on the internal aspect of TA in the book, how we've got these different parts within us and how we talk to ourselves between these different parts. So if we're being bossy and critical parent towards ourselves, we're kind of getting to that little worried child, aren't we? And making them lack confidence. And so how can we behave in an adult way if we're bullying ourselves?
Right. Wow.
If
That's
we access that nurturing part and talk to our child that way, then we feel more confident.
right. Right. This is amazing. So it is a wonderfully easy way to understand because we hear in psychology speak or in the coaching world lots like about the inner critic. So it sounds like the inner critic is just this thing that's, sort of outside. But here it's almost it's part of the system that's the whole system that's inside of ourselves. And if we can figure out how to work with transactional analysis, knowing which part is talking to which part inside myself,
Yes.
it sounds like it's almost like nice teamwork then.
Yes. That's it. That's a great way to put it. And of course, these, these parts of ourselves we've integrated. So the critical parent and the nurturing parent, that's what we saw with the big people, as I call it, when we were little. The big people we looked up to, the grown-ups and the teachers, the parents, the caregivers. We've integrated what we observed. And, sometimes people say, gosh, I'd never say what my mother used to say. And then all of a sudden they're opening their mouth, finding themselves saying it because they've integrated that into their subconscious. And that's the parental side of them that they've integrated. And of course, the child side is the child they once were, and all the experiences and the beliefs that they had, positive and maybe not so positive. The adult is the part of us that is less emotionally driven and more sort of logical, the part of us that maybe does some conflict resolution or does some practical solutions to things, or has confident relationships.
So it sounds like that part, the adult part, is more mature and wise, and it can almost see things for what they are and not get so emotionally it's not an emotionally reactive part. So if we can come more from that part, there's more sanity in our inner worlds.
Absolutely, yes. That's the part of us that is able to actually have those great conversations if we are feeling upset or having an issue with somebody. Say, hey, should we sit down and talk this through? Yeah,
Right,
that's
right.
or it's the part of us that says, oh, I've got a problem. Okay, what's the steps that I need to take to resolve this problem? That's the calm, confident adult part of ourselves.
Wow, that sounds ideal. And I'm guessing you have some tips in the book for how to employ this TA system to help ourselves through the process of people-pleasing behavior.
Absolutely. I mean, in the book, I talk about the different types of people pleasing that they do. Because
Right.
people think I always say, if I'm ever speaking anywhere and I say, raise your hand if you recognize people pleasing, or if you're a people pleaser, all the hands go up. Everybody saw I'm a people pleaser. I can't seem to stop it. I find it hard to say no. I can never set boundaries or maintain boundaries. But it's because we tend to view people pleasing as just one thing.
Mm.
And actually, what I do, I have a great quiz online that people can take to discover their different types of people pleasing, the percentages of each that they do of these different types of people pleasing. And there's a lot about the different types of people pleasing in the book. There's five types of people pleasing.
Do you want to name them for us and just go through each one
Yes,
tiny
yeah.
bit?
I mean, this is based on my years of work with clients. So these are the ones that I've identified. So there's rescuing, there is conflict avoiding, there's fitting in, which we do. There's overgiving, which we do. And then there's fixing, which is not so obviously known, but actually that's something that we do as well, is fixing. So each of those types of people pleasing has a specific method to help overcome it. So when we are aware of, oh, I'm a rescuer, or I tend to rescue and conflict avoid, but I don't do this one, or I do all of them. We all do all of them to some degree. Or I'm a fixer and an overgiver. So when we recognize that, we can start to say, well, from the book, we can start to say, well, what is the specific sort of remedy, as it were, to help overcome that particular belief and behavior of people pleasing? And so by breaking it down, we're able to address each of those types of people pleasing in its own best way. And then we're able to overcome that tendency and evolve into this person who has, leads this life of having courage to be you, instead of leading a life of always being pleasing others all the time.
Right, right. So this is fascinating about those 5 types, and I'm wondering if you have found, is there a type that's more prevalent than others? And like one of them that's most common, and why do people struggle so much to overcome that?
I think there isn't really one. We all do all of them, and we do them in different ways at different times and in
Mm,
different types of relationships. I think a lot of people would automatically identify with conflict avoiding. They would know, oh, yes, that means I find it hard to speak up and I don't like to put myself forward and speak and say what's on. If somebody upsets me, I don't tell them, and that sort of
yes.
thing. So I think people are quite aware of conflict avoiding. Rescuing is one that people sort of relate to. Giving
Mm,
up your time and energy and always being there for everybody else and not prioritizing your own needs because you're so often driven by guilt. Rescuing is often driven by guilt.
right.
But the other three as well, we do. Fixing is a bit like rescuing, but when we fix, what we tend to do is jump in and help somebody without even asking them if they want the help, because we're so eager to show that how helpful we are. And often, these different types of people pleasing are according to the experiences we've had as children. So sometimes people have had a lot of responsibility in their childhood, maybe had to look after family members or siblings, or be more grown up than they were ready to be because perhaps their parents weren't able to be there for them as much, and those sorts of things. They quite often have fixing tendencies because they feel that they have to show everybody that they're responsible and in control, and that they can be depended on.
Aha.
So, and then there's overgiving, of course, which we all do at times, and that is about needing to give so that we'll be appreciated and acknowledged. It's not how much we give or how often we give. It's that feeling of, gosh, if I give, then they'll want me. So
Yes.
that's something children do quite a lot, and then sometimes we slip into it a little bit when we
Right.
grow up.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I can, putting up my hands, all of them I can see in myself. And something I want to ask you about that you may not necessarily have addressed in the book, but I'm wondering if you can say something about it here is many years ago, first time I heard about people pleasing, it was almost said like a kind of an insult or very something distasteful, like, ugh, just like, ugh, people pleasing by the person who said it as, and they obviously think that they never do that kind of thing, and that it's a kind of a weak person who would be a people pleaser. Like, oh, would you just stop being such a people pleaser? It's a kind of an, like a horrible, cringy, icky thing to be. So, what comes up for you when you hear that?
Mhm. Well, actually, I do address that in the book because, as I
Oh,
say, we are all people pleasers, and it's okay. It's all
hmm,
right because it's part of human life. To a certain degree, our parents, we had to please our parents. If we were going to go and run across the road, and our parents shouted at us and said, "You must never do that again." And we said, "Oh, all right, I won't." They're taking care of us. We
mm,
had to conform to a certain degree. If our parents said, "Look, you mustn't go into the playground and say rude words or shout at the teacher," or whatever it was, we had to learn to please others and appease others to a certain degree, just as basic survival and
yeah,
living in society, just that we tend to get into certain belief systems where some people have more intense experiences in childhood and others have less intense experiences, but we have some level of people pleasing, even if it's just basic survival stuff. Some people, a lot
right.
of people have experiences in childhood that lead them to feel that they won't be loved and accepted unless they behave a certain way, or they agree with other people, or they do things for other people, or they don't ask for their own needs to be met. And so there is no judgment on people pleasing. People pleasing is just, as I say, part of a process that we go through in order that we can then learn from that and evolve and move on and become wiser beings. Gives us something to work on.
Right. I love that. That's a far kinder. It's like, yes, everybody starts that way. Some people have more trouble letting go of it. I guess partly because of certain personalities that also find it easier not to do that or to go, well, that was what I used to do. And all of this is very unconscious behavior also. It's not necessarily that it's like, okay, I'm just gonna stop now and now I can. That's why you wrote a book about it, is because it's not as easy as saying I'm just gonna stop. So I want to ask you about some actionable strategies. I think that's one of the most useful things about the book is if you find yourself doing this type of behavior a lot, then here's some strategies um, for helping you to overcome that. And we don't expect you to do it overnight either. So is there a particular strategy that you find resonate with many or most of your clients? And
I
ways
think
to
that,
integrate that.
yeah, the most important thing, well, it starts with acceptance, as we've just said. Well, let's just go to the baseline here. Everything in life starts with acceptance, because once we accept where we are, then we can move forward. But actually, there are different techniques that we can use to help with the different types of people pleasing. But in order to apply those techniques, we need to be coming from our adult self. If you're trying to set boundaries and your inner child is scared, if you're trying to speak up and your inner child is scared, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
actually, the main foundational thing that we need to do is, this is why I put TA in the book, and particularly this internal relationship, these parts between these parts of ourselves, is we need to access our nurturing parent to soothe our adapted child. So they let go of this need to please. They let go of their fear. They let go of their worries and their needs, their resistance. And oh no, I can't possibly speak up. They might not like me.
Yes.
They might shun me and reject me forever, because that's what people pleasing us comes down to us. It's about rejection. That's what it's all about. That child not wanting to be rejected, how they learn to please. So when we can access that lovely nurturing parent part of ourselves and soothe that adapted child, they can go free and run around in our subconscious and be free child. They can let go of all that thing. And then the adult self can step in, and the adult self can start putting into practice these different things I've got in the book for these different types of people pleasing. So setting boundaries, learning to speak up, these different, living from a more intentional place, being able to think clearly about what is it I do want in my life and I do want in my relationships, and how might I communicate that to other people? How might I set up goals in my life for the things that I want? We can do that because we're coming from our adult self, not our scared self. So the absolute first thing to do is to get into the practice of soothing that inner child, so that they can let go of that fear. And as I say in the book, some people say, well, I don't have any frame of reference for my nurturing parent. I didn't get any nurturing when I was growing up, so I haven't integrated a lovely nurturing, persona part of me. What do I do? And what I always say to clients, and again, I've put it in the book, is the nurturing that we receive in our life from our parents, any nurturing that happens in life, is about love. It's always about love. It's caring and being kind and being having empathy and being accepting, all those lovely things. They're all about love. So if you haven't had a nurturing parent experience, many of us have had some and can bring some to mind and can work on it. But if you do struggle with that, just go to the absolute source. Just start living your life in the space of love, thinking about acceptance, thinking about kindness, thinking about how can I bring that into my life? How can I actually just think about what those words mean? how can I give myself kindness? How can I be kind to other people? What is kindness? How can I look at kindness? How can I see kindness as I'm walking around? You know,
Right.
it's bring those that lovely energy of love, because that is the universal nurturer. That is our universal nurturing
Oh,
parent. Love is our true parent. And as I say in the book, our
wow.
parents were our wonderful caretakers, our wonderful, wonderful caretakers. But the love that they gave us came through them. It's a universal love. So even if you haven't been able to get that nurturing parent, you can just go to the source, start living your life on that space, and you'll
Mm.
begin to integrate that into yourself, then into your psyche, and start to soothe that anxious, adapted child you once were, so that you
Wow.
can feel more confident, you can be more adult, and feel able to let go of that need to always, worry and put other people first, and actually really get the best out of life.
Wow. That is such a beautiful point, Marlene, because I'm just thinking one time I had a workshop about how can I be kinder to myself? And there was somebody afterwards who sort of stayed behind and said she couldn't even think of one way to be kind to herself because she's got no idea what kindness looks like. She never had
Mm,
that. So this is such a beautiful answer to that whole thing as well. Start thinking about the word kindness. What does kindness mean? If you see it in
mm,
the street, what does it look like? If you wished somebody could give you kindness, what would that be? What do you need? So it's just sitting in those questions and starting a whole exploration. It may be the first time that somebody
mm,
ever has had a chance to think about it. Those qualities, but this is, in other words, this can be such a growth journey and
mm,
just to put them on in a very different space about things that they may not have had.
mm. And
I
quite
love
often
that.
we're being kind to ourselves without realizing, and that's something I do say to clients. I call it the because I'm being kind exercise. So when you brush your teeth in the morning, look in the mirror and brush your teeth and say, I'm brushing my teeth because it's good to look after them, because I'm being kind.
Oh,
I'm making this lovely meal for myself because it's good for me. Oh, that's because I'm being kind. So we're already being kind. We don't realize it. So it's just, if somebody, say to anybody who's struggling with that, think about the things you're already doing, even if they're very quite basic, what appear to be basic things.
yes,
But you do brush your teeth and you do cook your food and those things. So you are
yes.
already nurturing yourself.
Oh my
So it's just
goodness,
about
that's a
drawing on more of that.
yes. It's like suddenly realizing, oh, that's what I'm already doing, and we
Yes.
we we weren't thinking about it in that way. So it's quite a different perspective. That's amazing. Wow. So this book here and there includes some of your personal anecdotes, personal reflections. So how in the beginning we talked about clients and how you love helping them. So how has this, personal things that happened with you, your own journey shaped your insights and guidance to
Mhm.
offering these things in Courage to Be You?
The book is packed full of case studies. Mostly, there's one or two of my little anecdotes in there. Mostly case studies from so many clients that I've worked with over the years, and I guess, and my own journey too. I didn't have an easy start in life, and but time went on, and I was so lucky to have found myself in this field of work and able to go on my own journey. I was just talking to somebody this morning and she said, I admire you so much. You have such great boundaries. But it's a step-by-step process. And I said, yes, but it doesn't mean to say I don't feel bad when I say no to somebody. I still feel the feels, but that's part of it. And I guess that's just something to say quickly, actually, Lisa, is that each of these people-pleasing types have their own way of dealing with them. So once we can get more in adults and let go of that fearful child, it's really very much about doing them the right approach to the right thing. So, for example, talking about setting boundaries, if you are you know, if you have a problem with, you know, conflict avoiding, you're scared to speak up, no amount of being taught how to do boundaries is going to work for you. You have to learn how to deal with your overwhelming emotions that come up when you don't want to speak up and you're all scared, and you have to deal with that. And that's why it's so important to identify which of these people pleasing things we do, so we can do the right one to help us. No amount of being able to speak up and be confident in speaking up is going to help if we don't actually really know what we want, and we keep just going along with other people and fitting in with them all the time. So we need to actually work on, well, what do we need if we score highly for fitting in? What do we need to do? We need to get to know ourselves better. We need to understand our values. When we understand our values, then we can speak up and tell people what those values are. And so I suppose, reflecting on all those clients through the years and my own personal journey, it really is a journey of self-knowledge and self-awareness. It really is. The more we get to know ourselves, the more able and more confident we are to say to people, this is what I want, and this is how I feel about this, and yes or no, or next week, or whatever works for us, because we know ourselves very well. And when you know yourself, you feel far more confident in actually telling people who that self is.
Yes. Oh my word, I love that so much. It's really a journey of self, getting to know the self, what makes me tick, what's missing for me. Because often the behavior is a solution to something
Yes.
that started earlier in life. And now if we know that solution now becomes a problem, so we want to have, we need to fill in the gaps here for what was missing so that we can change this behavior that was once a solution and now it's a problem.
Absolutely, I think that solution. So if as a child not speaking up and being very, very quiet was the solution, that was great then, worked,
Yeah.
you know, got us by. But in our adult relationships, if we never speak up, how can anybody know what matters to us?
Yes, and then we build resentment because nobody ever asked me what I want, but we haven't learned what it is that we want or learn to say it. Um,
Mhm.
Avoiding the conflict that might come. So it's just such a phew. It's like a battlefield. If we grew up and we haven't let go of those behaviors, it can be like a battlefield because everywhere feels unsafe.
Yes, yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
we're living through the eyes, the lens of that adapted child.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness, Marlene, this is very, very, very fabulously useful and practical. I love it so much that there's actual little baby steps that we can take in each category. It's like for this thing, I need to figure out these few little things and work
Mhm.
on them. So it makes it not a big or people pleasing, but it's little pockets of things that
Mhm.
I can work on and make progress
Mm.
in. It sounds
Yes,
so
if I
practical.
people please by always overgiving, for example, if I notice I'm always overgiving a lot, you know, so there's no point then in, you know, being taught how to deal with conflict avoidance if it's overgiving. I mean, we all need to learn all of them because we do all of them, but if the ones
Yes.
that are predominant that are sort of blocking us and getting in the way, but the solution to overgiving is not about giving less, it's about learning to give to yourself, because when you learn to give to yourself, you start to balance things out
Right.
more. You start to prioritize yourself, and you start to give to others from a different point of view. You're giving to others from a cup that's full within yourself, not from an empty cup that needs to be wanted. So I'll just buy people, you know, buy their love. We can give even better when we learn to give to ourselves. So there's
Yeah.
all these different ways of approaching these different types of people pleasing. And I guess I've learned that for myself through the years. And I've learned that with all my clients through the years. And it's just been a journey. One of the things that I particularly put in those 5 people pleasing chapters in the book is that we all get stuck with these types of people pleasing when we don't know what to do. You know that experience where you say, oh, I don't know, should say yes or I should say no. Should I tell them? I don't know. Would I? Oh, I don't know. I feel a bit guilty if I say no. Oh no. Oh, I don't know. Should I? Should I speak up? Or am I being oversensitive? You know. And so we have those conversations all the time, and that's what in each of those 5 chapters, I've actually got a checklist to go through. So when you find yourself in a situation with, oh, I don't know, should I give them this? Or you can actually go through that checklist and you can ask yourself these questions that will guide you to understand where you're coming from and why you feel the need to do what you're going to do. And then you can make an informed decision. You can say, well, actually, I'm not going to speak up and say anything this time because actually it would be more tactful, or it might be, better on this occasion. And I'm coming from my adult considered self here that actually this might be an occasion not to say something. Or you could say, oh gosh, I can see actually the reason I'm avoiding speaking up is because my inner child is worried. And so then you can make you get an informed decision about what action to take and whether this is a time to say, I'm going to work on my people pleasing here a bit, and maybe I'm going to try and speak up a little bit, and I'm going to do some exercises to help me do that. Or I'm going to step back and actually
Wow.
see. So there is no right or wrong. There's no one size fits all. There's never a time. This is absolutely people pleasing, and this is absolutely not. And it's where is this coming from? This desire to respond to this person, and how much of it is coming from this people pleasing aspect of me, and how much of it is actually maybe I will be. Let this go a bit this time. Maybe that might be the better thing.
Right.
So we can actually have that we can make that decision based on that self-knowledge and understand these parts of ourselves and what's going on within us.
Wow. This is so magical because I'm a big proponent for, I want to read a book, but I don't want to just have it be forgotten the moment I put the book back. I want to be able to do something with this book. How am I going to apply this? So this feels like one of those books that's just going to help you apply the things instead of just reading it and then it's forgotten on your book rack. So what is the best place for people to get in touch or buy the book or get all these resources? Because I think I have it on a little singing bird in my ear that there's a hub somewhere.
Yes. So I created the Courage to Be Hub, or it's CTBY, Courage to Be You. CTBY Hub is the domain. So
Right.
ctbyhub.com. And I created the hub because this is my 4th book, and I have resources in all my books. And I wanted somewhere where people would come and get all the stuff, all the goodies. And they can go to that domain, and perhaps you'll include it with this
Yes.
video so that people. And then from there they can go to the website, they can find out about the different things I offer, and they can get different resources and different things that go with the book, and watch the videos and access the YouTube channel. So I've encouraged to be a YouTube channel as well. So that was the idea, was to have one central place that people go to.
Wow, that's so useful. That's wonderful. So we'll definitely have it in the notes of this video, all the links that people can find the book, the hub, all of that. Marlene, thank you so much for being here today. It was just so useful. Are there any parting words, a last little thought, one little takeaway for people about people pleasing?
Yes, absolutely. I would just like to say you're awesome. If you're watching this video, you're awesome anyway. Everybody's awesome. We're all here, we're on a journey, we're on our own journey, and it's all about learning and growing. And actually, it's just about taking it in small steps. There is no, oh, I have problems with not speaking up or setting boundaries, and I'm going to do this, and tomorrow it'll all be better. There is no such thing. It's step by step by step, and start small. If you're struggling with people pleasing and you're struggling with setting boundaries, find the easiest person you can set boundaries with and tell them that that's what you're going to be doing because you're practicing, and take that small step. They'll probably laugh and say, oh, that's a good idea. I think I'll try that too. So
Right.
practice, speak up in smaller situations, take it step by step, read the book. I really encourage people to read this book because I feel that there's an awful lot there to help people. And I didn't really write it. Somebody wrote it, something wrote it through me. I put the work in, I put the hours in, but this is about, helping all of us. It's a journey for all of us, and it's a step by step by step process. And go back to those checklists in the book. Every single time you feel a bit stuck, just go back and go through those, ask yourself those questions.
Sounds really, really helpful and magical. Thank you, Marlene. And thank you so much to our listeners for listening, for supporting Marlene's beautiful book, Courage to Be You. It's packed with resources, as you heard, the hub as well, where you can find all the practical things that can help you. So thank you again, Marlene. Bless you for writing this book, for making yourself available for the knowledge and the information to come through you.
Thank you, Lisa.